Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first session of this year's masterclass for ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. My name is Ram. I'm one of the product specialists from the product support team for ServiceDesk Plus Cloud, and I'm going to be the trainer for today's session. In the first session, we're going to see how you can effectively handle a major incident with ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. A few housekeeping items before we go into the presentation. All of you are default on mute, right? So if you have any questions, you could always post on the Q&A panel, the question panel on the left-hand side of your screen. And we have a dedicated Q&A session at the end, and I will be able to answer those queries at that time. Right, and we are also recording this session, and these recordings will be sent out to you in a couple of days. And you can always send in your queries or feedbacks during the session in the chat, or if you have anything post the session, you could send it to my email address. That's the one over there, or you could always send it to hello@servicedeskplus.com, or you could always reach out to support as usual, and we will be glad to assist you further. Now on today's agenda, so we're going to start by understanding what is a major incident. Then we will see how Zilker, a company, handled a major incident. Then we will discuss a framework which can help you in handling a major incident, or which can be effective in managing incidents. Then we will take that framework and I will present you a demo within ServiceDesk Plus Cloud on how you can make use of ServiceDesk Plus Cloud to handle a major incident in an organization, right? What is a major incident? A major incident is the one that is going to disrupt the smooth functioning of an organization. It is the one that is going to impact several users and departments, preventing them from performing their everyday tasks, which are crucial for business continuity, right? And arguably, a major incident is the one that is going to require a much faster response time, which is far greater than a regular incident management process in an organization. So like a mailbox outage for a particular user or a specific department is not always a major incident, right? So that's going to impact on bring down the productivity of a company. That is a major incident, right? So to understand, and for this presentation, I have taken up an example from a company called Zilker. And this company, Zilker, is a web performance and a security company that offers CDN, DNS, DDoS protection to websites that face major outage, right? And Zilker, one fine day, faced a major incident, right? So they have multiple customers using services which are offered to them. And one fine morning, when Zilker customers tried to access their services through the dedicated websites, they were greeted with a bad gateway error, right? So the irony here is Zilker, which helps users not, have an outage and prevents them from, experiencing an outage, suddenly faced an outage themselves, right? And what caused this outage, right? Further analysis by the Zilker technicians found out that there was a simple process which was performed on a CPU, right? And that particular process spiked the usage of that CPU. And that CPU was dedicated for the HTTPS traffic which comes in through Zilker, right? So that was a simple cause, but then it spiked a major incident where users were not able to get in and access their services, right? So let's run down a timeline, right? What happened when the issue occurred, and what are the steps that were taken by Zilker in order to handle this major incident, right? So at 1:42, the outage happens and services begin to fail, right? And 3 minutes later, Zilker team is still getting alerts from the monitoring tools, right? And there were service down alerts, 502 error alerts, and global traffic drop error alerts, even after 6 minutes from the initial occurrence, right? But till the 8th minute from the issue, Zilker team was not aware that there was an issue happening. The SRE team starts looking at it only at around 1:50 p.m. And by that time, the traffic was almost down by about 80%, right? And at around 1:52, there was speculations of an external attack. And 13 minutes later from the initial occurrence, Zilker team declares that this is a major incident, right? And at around 2 p.m., the London engineering team is alerted about the global outage. And by that time, right, by 2:10, the support team, the customer-facing teams of Zilker were flooded with phone calls from customers complaining that they were not able to access the service. Right, and 33 minutes later, at around 2:15, an incident response team was formed, which contains technicians from multiple teams. And at around 2:25 p.m., the incident response team still does not know what has happened, what caused this issue, and they were under constant pressure from the management, asking them what has happened, when will the service be up and running. They did not have any clue on that. Right, and at around 2:30, the Zilker team did not know what was the root cause, and 53 minutes later, they dismissed the possibility of an external attack. Right, and at around 2:45, it was identified that one of the servers were causing that incident, and an hour and 18 minutes later, that's around 3 p.m., they killed that particular server, and that brought back the services, and customers were able to access the service. Right, so this, as you can see, as we run down, there were missteps taken by Zilker in handling such a major incident. Right, had they performed, or had they had a proper workflow to handle a major incident, they could have resolved this issue much sooner. Right, so that is what we are going to see in this framework. Right, so we came up with a framework for a major incident management, right? And if following this could help any company to solve a major incident pretty easily, right? And pretty quick. Now, to begin with, so you might have an alert triggering system or some system that's going to notify you if there is a down or if there is some kind of an incident that is happening in the server side or anything, right? So what Zilker could have done is they could have converted those emails into tickets into a service desk system or any system. And once that is done, the next thing that should happen is communicating with the stakeholders, right? And as the communication is being sent out, there should also be a team notified that there is an incident happening, please take a look at it, right? And that team could come in, assess this issue, right? Confirm or check if it's a major priority incident. If it is, mark it as a major priority. Post announcements to the external world so your customers are aware that there is a major incident happening. Reassure them you are handling it, and that team which you assigned can delegate this particular incident to the right group, and the right group can split the tasks, the incident task to bring the service back up much sooner, right? And if it's a resolution found, you can resolve it, or they could move that into a problem, right? They could initiate an RCA, conduct an RCA, find the root cause analysis, and if there is a solution found, upload it to the knowledge base. And once the incident resolvers and associated teams and the stakeholders agree that the business is normal as usual, you can mark the incident as resolved and you could close, right? So this is a framework, which is a pretty easy framework that could be used to handle a major incident. But I have mapped it with the features that could help you in handling a major incident in ServiceDesk Plus. So I'm not going to run through this slide. Instead, we are going to jump right into the product and see how you can make use of the features to handle a major incident, right? So over here, I am logged in to my ServiceDesk system as an administrator. And I'm pretty sure most of you would have already switched to the new UI. If you haven't, this is our new UI. This UI is currently in the beta stage, right? So you could take a look at it. If you have any feedbacks, do let us know. You can send it to support, right? Okay, so this is my application. And I'm pretty sure most of you all would have configured the mail server settings. Emails would have been coming into the service desk as tickets, right? So all you have to do, the first step is detect, right? Integrating with your monitoring tools. Simple process. All you have to do is make sure your alert monitoring tools are triggering the notifications or trigger alert notifications as email to your service desk system. And that in turn can come into the service desk as an incident, right? Pretty straightforward. You have one single view, one consolidated view of all your incidents right here, right? The next thing that you need to do is inform your stakeholders, right? So that could be a customized message. So there are two features in ServiceDesk Plus which could help you achieve exactly that, right? So the first one is, if you go to setup, if you go to automation, you have triggers, right? Triggers help you to send out timely notifications, right? So you can create a trigger by clicking on the new trigger button, right? So if I click on edit, so I've already created a trigger in my service desk system, right? So I want this trigger to be executed whenever a request is created. I can specify some conditions, right? So for this case, I've created some simple conditions, like if it contains outage, if it contains attack, system down, or anything. If any of these matches, I want a notification to be triggered, right? So under actions, I have multiple actions that I could perform. One is a notification. I could create a task. I could create a custom function, trigger a custom function, or invoke a webhook if this condition matches, right? So in this case, I have a notification created already. So I'm just going to edit that to show you how it works. So you could create a notification, and this notification can be triggered via email or via SMS from the ServiceDesk Plus system, right? And you could also notify technicians, group members, and even the request users as well, right? And there is also another option called organization roles. So what it does, what's organization roles? Now, there are going to be key stakeholders, and they might be your CEOs or CIOs or CTOs, right? You could configure them as organization roles under the setup organization roles. So organization roles start from CEO level all the way to an end user reporting manager level. And if you want anybody to be a CTO, you click on CTO, you click on associate user, and choose the user who is going to be your CTO, right? Pretty simple. But why would you need to do that? It's let's say now you have multiple other notifications, right? And if the CTO changes, right, you would want to go ahead and update all those notifications, right? Instead, what is the simplest process? Just call the CTO variable over here, right? So whenever a notification is triggered, whoever is configured as the CTO under the organization role, this notification will be sent to them automatically, right? And you could also customize the subject and the body of the message. All you have to do is click on the $sign, right? Click on the $sign, and you will be able to choose the field that you want. For example, if I want the request ID to be present, I'll just choose a dollar request ID, and that would come in, right? So likewise, you can customize the subject on the body of the message as per your preference, right? So that is triggers. So you can trigger a timely notification if a condition matches. So that is one way of notifying users. The other option that we have is with the help of business rules, right? So the advantage with a business rule is, you might see it is pretty much the same. It's more like a trigger, but a business rule can be executed by considering operational hours, which you have configured in the setup chat, right? So you can execute a business rule during operational hours or outside operational hours. So if you want to have a separate notification for outside operational hours, you can do that, or a separate action. So similarly, I will specify what is my condition, right? I can specify if the subject needs to match or anything. I can update that over here if you want. So some conditions you might not be able to fulfill it directly, and if you want to have a customized script for that, you can also add a condition with the help of custom functions, right? And under actions, you could trigger a notification from the service desk system. So it's pretty much the same notification that we saw earlier, right? But then this business rule helps you to trigger it out even at a different operational hour as per your preference, right? So now what we have done is we have communicated with the stakeholders. Next thing that we need to do is, bring in the technician group, right? So in the same business rule, I will specify assign this group, assign this request to my SRE team, right? So I'll just specify that. So whenever a request is created from my alert monitoring system, it'll automatically get assigned to the SRE team in my service desk. So these and all are already happening, right? And I have done one more thing over here. I have, in the same business rule, I have specified that this request needs to be assigned to a major incident template. Why is that? I'll quickly tell you in a moment, right? So let's just quickly open up this request. Now, this is the incident which was triggered from my alert monitoring system. And the first thing that you might notice is this bar on top, right, which is transition. What is that? It is RLC. It's called the request lifecycle feature, which we have. And this request lifecycle is associated to a template. All right. So whenever email comes in, it always gets created with the help of a default request template, right? So in this case, I have created a template called major incident template, right? And I have specified whatever fields that I want over here, and I saved it, right? I didn't even mark it as a default template in the application. All I did is specify the business rule to move this incident to this particular template, right? So whenever a request comes in, it gets created under this template. Then I will create a request lifecycle under setup, automation, lifecycles, right? So I have a major incident workflow lifecycle already created, and this is my workflow, right? So over here, the white boxes that you see, the white rectangles, those are your statuses which you define in the application, and the green boxes that you see are your transitions, right? Why would you need RLC in the first place? Now, just take a normal case of an incident where you have not defined any life cycle. A technician can simply go in and he will be able to change the status of an incident from one status to another. Probably you would have prevented him from putting in the on hold status, all right? But there are multiple other status which you can choose from. But you don't want him to do that. You want him to follow a set of processes, a guideline, right, in order to handle a major incident, right? How you can do that is with the help of my request lifecycle feature in ServiceDesk Plus. So that's what we have created over here. So when a request comes in, it goes into the open state. That is a by default one, right? And when it goes from open, I want the next status to be analysis, right? And I have initiated a transition over here. That is this box over here, right? In a transition, you can do multiple actions. Like, for example, you can specify when this transition should appear, right? Who should have this transition? So over here, under scope, you can specify who it should have, whether only the reporting to manager or the head of the request should have it. And when the transition should appear, you can also define it as a condition. For example, let's say if the category is network only, I want this transition to come here, something like that, right? You can always write a condition for a before transition. Likewise, you have a during transition. During is nothing but what happens when I click on the transition. So over here, I'll specify mandate the fields, right? So let's just go ahead and analyze this, all right? So I'm a technician, I'm working on it. So I've clicked on analyze. And what I want is, I want the technician to specify what is the impact and the urgency of this particular incident, right? So I'm gathering that information before the incident moves into the next stage. So I will specify affects business, and I'll specify affects production, and I will hit update. And you see priority was not assigned till now. I didn't hide it, I'm so sorry, but it's now updated as major incident. We will come back to that, right? So that is my next status. So it's currently under analysis state, right? So let's quickly go in to the setup, right? And how did I determine the priority as major incident? Is with the help of a priority matrix. So under customization help desk, you have priority matrix, right? So the priority matrix helps you to determine the priority for an incident based on the impact and the urgency field, right? So if the impact is configured as affects business and the urgency is selected as affects production, it is going to be a major incident. Likewise, you can define it for all the other options as well, right? So why would you need to do that? You don't let your users or technicians choose the priority for their request. Otherwise, it's always going to be a major incident or a critical incident, and it's going to apply with a very high SLA if you have done that, right? So you don't want that. You want to determine based on the value that is selected. You can configure that as a priority matrix over here to determine the priority, right? So currently this incident is a major incident in the ServiceDesk Plus system. Now that I've classified as assessed as a major incident, so I'll perform the assess option. I want to make sure this request is handled in a shorter period of time. And how I can do that is with the help of my service level agreements, right? So I will create a service level agreement for major incident as the condition. So if the priority is a major incident, right, this request should be responded within 30 minutes and it should be resolved within 2 hours, right? And if it occurs outside the operational hours, I don't care. I want it to be resolved immediately. I can also specify irrespective of holidays, weekends, this incident should be closed, right? So that is how you define your times for your SLA. And in terms of escalation, for response, you have 1 level of escalation, and for resolution, you have 4 levels of escalation, right? So in each escalation, you can specify when the escalation should happen, either before or after, right? So that is over here. Now, in this case, I've selected before because before 30, so my response time is 30 minutes, but I don't want it to wait till the SLA lapses. Before, like within 15 minutes, I want an escalation to be sent. In this case, I've sent it to my notification, ticket owner that there is no response sent, kindly act on it, right? If I want, I can also perform another action on it, like moving it to a different group, assigning it to a different technician. If you have a priority higher than major incident, you can also do that, right? Likewise, you have the same options available for resolutions, but you have it as 4 levels, right? So for response, you have 1, for resolution, you have 4. Now, in this case, for this particular case, we have determined we have detected the incident, we have communicated with the stakeholders, we have brought in the support group to handle it, the support team has defined it as a major incident, and the appropriate SLA was applied. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to reassure my customers that we are actually looking at the major incident. And how you can do that is with the help of an announcement, right? So if you go to Home tab, if you go into announcements, you can create an announcement over here, right? So I'll simply click on new announcement and I will specify error 502 bad gateway issue identified. We are working on it, right? So you can put in your own customized message and the title. You can specify if you are expecting a resolution time. So you can, this announcement will be available only within that time period, right? You can schedule it. You can specify what type of an announcement is it, what is the priority that you're handling it in, what are the services that are affected. And if you want to notify users with an email, right, you can add their email addresses over here, right? You can type it in manually and the announcement will get triggered as an email, right? And you can specify who should have access to this particular announcement, whether it's going to be private, whether it's going to be public, or whether it's going to be shared. Private is only technicians who has logged into the system can view it. Shared means you can specify which user group you want to expose it to, so that you are limiting the visibility of the announcement. Public being it will be available for every user who has access to my system, right? So let's go ahead and post this announcement over here. So let me, and I'm logged in as an end user. The first thing that I see is I get an announcement notification on the bottom left hand corner, right? So let's quickly reload this page, and I have an announcement widget added to my users self-service portal over here, right? And it is also listed over here, right? So the end user can see it, thereby they know that you guys are working on it. right? So what it does is you're not only reassuring your customers that you are handling a major incident, right? You also have the opportunity to reduce the number of incidents that they're going to raise or that they're going to report, right? But there are still cases where, just like Sandra, who I'm logged in as, I'm going to raise an issue. I saw the announcement, but I still want to raise and report this particular issue. So I will just say outage, please help, right? And I will try to post this incident, but I'm not allowed to, right? I'm clearly prompted with a message on top saying your operation is aborted. Since this is a critical incident, please call our major incident team, right? So thereby you're curbing, like you're negating that particular incident from getting created in terms of an outage, right? How did I do that? Is again with the help of a business rule, right? So if under automations, business rule, I have created a business rule saying if the subject is any of this and the requester is not alert triggering system, right? So in this case, what I've done is if it's not an email or a login, a portal created ticket, anything apart from alert triggering system, I want those to be stopped. I want to be curbed, right? So I will specify abort process execution and give them a message as well, right? So this is what happened over here, right? Sandra was stopped by this particular business rule and she was posted with this particular announcement, right? So thereby you're reducing the number of calls that are going to come in post identification of a major incident. Thereby you give technicians more breathing space on the number of requests they actually need to handle, right? So you have done your announcements part. Now as a technician, let's go into my request, right? And I see there are multiple requests created for the same issue, right? So how can I handle it effectively? It's the same incident. I don't want multiple technicians to work on it, right? So in this case, what I want to do is, if it's from the same user, I will simply check the request and I can merge them, right? So I can specify which is my oldest request and I will merge it, right? Otherwise, if it's from different users, I can make use of a link request, right? So the oldest request will be considered as the parent request, as in over here, right? Why? So if you merge it, two requests becomes one and it goes off your history. When you report it, you'll find only one incident, right? But if you link it, you will still have the existing incidents in your service desk system, and any note that you add or any solution that you add can also be automatically copied to the linked request by checking the add notes option, right? So that helps you to handle incidents, bulk incidents, as one single incident, right? So that is link feature and merge feature to effectively handle bulk incidents in your service desk system. Now that we have identified the issue, we have made announcements, I have handled, linked and merged my incidents, the technician, as per my transition, he will go into a triage state, which is basically bringing in the right set of technicians to work on it, right? So if I click on triage, I got a pop-up saying choose the group that's going to handle this incident, right? So that is my transition over here. So I have a during transition, right? So what would you need to do is, or what Zilker should have done in this case is, identify who are all the technicians that are currently available in the system or logged in, and create a group based on it. So how do you identify those users? So you go into Home tab, you go into Technician Availability Chart, and you have a Logged In Technicians button showing you who are all the technicians that are currently logged in, right? And also you have a scheduler over here, right, which shows you who are all the technicians that are on leave. So let me just put this technician as on leave also. So currently there are 2 technicians that are on leave, right? Now if I go ahead and let's say create a group with them as well, there are chances the incident will automatically assign to them, right? Since I have a technician auto assign enabled, right? Now if I don't want that to happen, I can simply make use of a delegation feature, right? So this red dot indicates you can define a delegation. So I'll click on it, click on new delegation, and over here I can specify whose who should be the technician that's going to handle the upcoming incidents if Wesley is on leave. So I can simply choose a technician name from here, right? Likewise, you can do it for the upcoming approvals that are getting created, right? So like if I do that, so if I create a group, let's say with Wesley, or let's come a step out of this case for now. So any incident or a request that comes in, right, and Wesley could handle it, it will not assign it to him. It will automatically move to Catherine as per my delegation, right? So this calendar can be synced with your Office 365 as well. So if a technician marks leave over there, it will get automatically synced in over here. And as an admin, you can specify who are all the technicians and what is the delegation is going to be, right? So that is how you can see who are all the technicians that are currently available. Once you have that list, you can simply go into setup technician groups. I'm pretty sure you guys have already done that. Create a technician group as well, right? And when you create a group, make sure the notifications are enabled. So when a request is assigned to them, they are notified, right? So pretty standard. You could just see the available technicians, create a group based on the available technicians in ServiceDesk. And with the help of the technician auto assign feature, you can make sure the requests are auto assigned either on round robin method or load balancing method. You can also say consider technician availability based on created date and due date as well, right? So the request gets automatically assigned to them, right? So, and the next thing, and one more thing that you also need to do is make sure the technicians who are currently logged into the system are aware of this particular major incident. So in order to notify all the technicians, you can make use of the broadcast message. So it is available under quick actions. So I'll click broadcast message and I can specify who the broadcast message should go to. Should it be for all the technicians or only for logged in technicians, right? So I can send it out as an announcement that comes in as a pop-up on the screens, right? So now you have created a group and all I have to do is just choose the group from here and I'll just update it, right? So whoever is the available technician, the request will get automatically assigned to him. So in this case, it was allocated to Wesley Snipes, right? So what Wesley will now do is he will either break this incident as tasks, right, for a quicker resolution. So he can come in. I have predefined some tasks, so I'm just going to use that in this case. So I will choose all the tasks that is required, or in most of the major incidents, you would not know, or you might not have a predefined task. You can always create them manually by clicking on the add task button. When you create a task, you can specify what is the schedule time, what is the actual start and end date. If you want to specify to a specific group or a technician, you can do that. You can also set up a trigger. So the task is triggered only at the right time, not whenever a task is created. And you can also define attachments, priority, and everything, right? So in this case, I have defined the task. And if I want to define a dependency for my task, I can always do that, right? So the first thing, let's say I want analyze error logs to come and then collect the CPU data. So I will just draw a line between these two tasks, all right? Or let me just do it the other way. I'm so sorry. All right, so I could simply say analyze error logs, collect CPU data. Right? Once that is collected, I can say populate the alarm details and identify the root cause. And if the root cause was a server, roll back the server. Right? So this is your dependency. So likewise, you can draw your own dependency under the task dependency map. Right? And the alerts, I mean, the tasks will get triggered automatically. So you can just do one task and the subsequent tasks can also be triggered. Right? So that is one way of handling a major incident. Right? Otherwise, a technician or the best way to handle it, that is the technician could convert this particular incident into a problem in the service desk system. So the one way that you could do it is with the help of associated problem. I will just click on new, right? And a problem template will load up for my screen. It captures the impact, the urgency, the category and everything, right? And I can specify what are the services that are affected. If I already know the CI and the assets that are affected, I can specify those details over here and I can save it, right? This would create a problem and it will also automatically associate the problem to my system, but to my incident, right? And but let's say there are chances where technicians would not initiate an RCA, right, or initiate a problem. So you can make that as an automatic process. How? You can have an initiate RCA transition as part of your life cycle, and you can have a custom function written. And what the custom function does is creates a task. I'm sorry, creates a problem with from this particular incident, right? So if I go into the problems tab now, I have a problem which I created already, right, over here. And so that's 258. And if I click on initiate RCA, it's definitely going to create a new task, new problem in the service desk system, right? So if I choose that, it should be 259, right? So that was triggered automatically. So you have a workflow right there, right? So it goes in a series of where a problem is created in order from that particular incident, right? Now the technician or whoever is the technician that is going to work on this problem, right, can start analyzing it, right? So let's put it to I'm going to still put it to IRT team and Wesley itself. So he created this, right? And what Wesley could do is conduct some analysis. Again, do you notice the life cycle? We have a life cycle for problems as well. So if I under automations life cycles, we have problem life cycle, and I have created a pretty standard life cycle for this particular demo, where a start is problem raised, it goes into open, and the next transition is initiate RCA, right? So so the next thing that we did was create tasks, right? So if technicians click on initiate RCA, right, it immediately creates tasks for them, right? And the technicians can work on this task. You have similar features where you define your task dependency and all of that, right? So once the technician has completed, for example, he has analyzed this particular log, he could go ahead and update the impact details, right? If he has found out a root cause, he can update the root cause details. He can either add it as a text or attach it as a file, right? And once he has found out which CPU was causing this particular error, right, or which workstation or server was causing this error, he can either associate it as an asset, or he can associate it as a CI, right? But there is an advantage, right, with the help of associating it as a CI. What is it? It shows you a relationship map, right? So if I click on this map icon, a map populates on my screen. So from here, before a technician goes out and rolls back a particular upgrade or rolls out a particular operation, right, he can see where the server is located, and he can see who is connected to it, what are the services it hosts. For example, I want to see who's file and folder is using, or let's say who's hosting the email service, who is it managed by. I have a clear map over here, right? This can be populated with the help of the CMDB module in the service desk system, right? So you go to CMDB, and you can convert your asset as a CMDB in your service desk system, right? And you can define your relationship map. So this is the asset, or this is the configuration item that I was talking about. And you have relationships tab where you can define your relationship. You can click on add relationship to define a new relationship, right? So with the help of CMDB in problem management, you can clearly understand what are the things that might get affected as well. And if you need to inform somebody, you can always do that, right? So that is CI field in a problem. And once the technician completes this particular problem, so he fixes the upgrade, he can close off all those tasks, right, and from the service desk system. And the next thing that he will do is, he cannot close this problem. He has to click on solution found. It's asking for a what is this? What are the CIs that were involved? That was one of my transitions. So if he forgets to define the transition, all right, or define the CI that was involved, you can make sure he fills out that field at that particular time, right? And it is also showing me a closure rule was violated. What is a closure rule and where do you define it? Is under setup, under automation, you can define your closure rules. So closure rules helps you to define the mandatory fields for closing a request, and you also have it for problems. So in a problem, you can specify what are the fields and the task, whether they should be completed, right? You can also check on whether impact and the services affected fields were filled in. You can do all that. You can make them, they are mandatory, and also you can specify what are the incidents that are associated with that problem be closed. You can also copy the solution, the workaround to the associated incidents, email technicians and requesters who were affected by this problem, right? So you can define that as a closure rule. So in order to associate incidents to a problem, you have this associations on the right hand side. You click on the association, click on attach. This will show you all the incidents that are present in the system, right? So let's just search for error 502. I will just choose all the incidents and associate them to this particular problem. Now solution is mandatory, so I can add this solution article over here, whatever solution that I have found, and I can make sure this goes into my knowledge base as well, right? I can also have some keywords, so the solution can be easily identified by the technician, and I will click on add, right? So now the solution is added. If I click on solution given, the mandatory fields are filled in, right? And it closes the problem, right? And it also shows the other option that you have. So I'm going to say close all associated incidents, copy the solution workaround to those incidents, and I will click apply. Now, if we go into this request, which we associated to the problem, let's just do a quick reload. Oh, okay. So there was a lifecycle restriction that has happened, but okay, it did close it. Oh, okay. Right. So it did close out this particular incident, right? And the solution was also copied to this particular incident. Right. So thereby you have effectively handled a problem, and you have also closed the associated incidents which were associated with affected with this particular problem. Right. So that is one way of handling. That is the best way of handling major incident in ServiceDesk Plus, and these are the features that can help you to do that. Right. And any solution that you add, it gets added to the knowledge base over here. Right. Now let's say a requester, right, and you have some solutions populated, and if a requester is reporting on a known issue or that you have, right, so all you have to do is if he types in a subject, right, so let's just quickly report an issue, right? So if he or she types in a solution or a suggestion, so let me just quickly raise an incident to show you that. Right, so what do we have? So let's just call DDoS and check if that's populating. So if there are any solutions that are already available in my system, this will come up as a suggestion to for the end users as well, right? So if the solution is publicly posted, right? So that can, you can notify your end user about the solution, thereby you reduce the amount of tickets that comes in, right? So that is a solution auto suggest feature. So just in case if this issue occurs again, like a 502 bad gateway error, and the technician tries to manually report it, that will also come up as a solution auto suggest right there, right, while creating an incident, right? So with that, we have come to the very end of this demo, and we have run through all the features that we have, all right, that we have mapped it to this framework, and that is an effective way of handling a major incident, right? Now, let's say if Zilker had followed this exact process, right? Let's see how quickly they would have been able to resolve this, right? So when the outage occurs, a notification is triggered, and a request is created in the application, you also notify the respective teams, the stakeholders, with a notification email, right? So all of this could have happened at the same moment, and it also assigned it to the respective team, and that team could have started working on it, classified it as a major incident within 3 minutes of the initial occurrence, right? Then by 1:50 p.m. at around let's say 5 minutes later, the incident could be broken into a task, assigned it to the respective technicians, right? And by 1:55, they could have announced the customers, and within 28 minutes, they could have actually resolved this particular issue, right? With this particular major incident. So that would have saved them almost about 15 minutes, right? Initially, it took about an hour and 18, but following these process could have saved much time for the Zilker's team, right? So with that, we have come to the end of the presentation. Just some quick run through on KPIs. So how do you evaluate your incident management tool? It's with the help of KPIs, right? So in ServiceDesk Plus, you will be able to generate reports to understand what is your ticket volume, what is your technician's productivity, what is the resolution time, how much requests are on backlog. You can find all of these with the help of reports, right? So we have predefined reports for all the modules in the service desk system. Apart from that, you can also create a custom report as a tabular report or a matrix report for any of the modules, right? And a quick recap on what we saw. So what is a major incident? It is not something that's going to affect a single user. That it is something that's going to prevent a business continuity in an organization, right? And ServiceDesk Plus brings you the right features and capabilities for you to efficiently implement a major incident management in your organization. So the features that we covered, we saw self-service portal, we saw SLAs, we saw business rules that triggers automatic notifications, trigger feature, we saw templates, we saw how we can associate a CMDB, a CI to an incident or a problem, right? You can make use of, we made use of announcement, broke down an incident as tasks, we marked tasks, whatever solution we found, we updated it to the knowledge base, right? So with that, that's the end of this particular presentation. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A panel. We will be glad to answer. And I just want to let you go in with one final information. So if you are looking for a free product training and consultation, right? You can get a 45-minute one-on-one training session with our with our product experts. All you have to do is you could send an email to itsmkis@manageengine.com to book your slots, right? So that gives you a one-on-one session for about 45 minutes. All right. So if you do have any questions, you could always reach out to our support teams, or you could send it to my email address. So that is my email, sriram.ks@manageengine.com, right? Or you can also send it to hello@servicedeskplus.com. And we will be sending out the recordings as well, right? So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys found this information useful. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.